Hi, Red Raiders. Let's now prepare to go over the Student Organization Risk Management Training hosted by the Office of Student Involvement. Why are we here today, and what's one important reason why? Well, Clay R. Warren was a freshman here at Texas Tech University who tragically passed away in 2002 after sustaining injuries in a car accident while returning from an organizational event. Clay's tragic passing went on to inspire the Clay R. Warren Bill, otherwise known as Texas Senate Bill 1138 and House Bill 2639. These two bills went on to create what is now legally required across the state of Texas, as well as Texas Tech University, where institutions of higher education must provide risk management training for all organization leaders and advisors. As a result of Texas House Bill 2639, otherwise known as the Clay R. Warren Law, there are 8 mandated topics required to be covered in these risk management trainings. They include the possession and use of alcoholic beverages and illegal drug use, hazing, sexual abuse and harassment, fire and other safety issues such as the possession or use of a firearm, other weapons, and/or explosive devices, travel, behavior at parties and other events held by student organizations, an adoption of a risk management policy by a student organization, as well as disability support. How then do we identify risk? How do we work through a risk management process? Well, there are a total of 5 steps. First, we identify, assess, plan, implement and monitor, and then finally evaluate. Before we really dig into the topic of risk management today, here are a few quick general risk management tips to keep in mind always. Plan ahead. Keep your advisor informed. They can also help to inform you about campus resources that you may or may not know about. Educate and train your new officers and members regularly. Make sure that you're reviewing and updating your constitution and bylaws on at least a yearly basis. Use your risk management and student involvement websites hosted by Texas Tech University to help you minimize risk. And of course, always make sure to report any concerns you may see or witness. When in doubt, report it. On the topic of reporting, Texas Tech University now offers anonymous reporting of any student concern through Real Response. Your name and phone number will never be shared or revealed via this process. You can do so via any mobile device with texting capabilities and can do so by texting the number 806-454-7867 or scanning the QR code below. An additional reporting option is also included here, such as Raiders Report. Raiders Report is an initiative dedicated to the well-being of students and a promotion of a community that cares for each of its members. This is not an anonymous reporting process. So it's important to note that you will be asked to give your information as well as the information of those who may or may not be involved in the report. Our first topic today is going to be possession and use of alcoholic beverages and illegal drugs. Let's first review the Texas Tech policy on alcoholic beverages. Texas Tech policy defines misconduct as unlawful or unauthorized possession, use, distribution, delivery, or sale of alcohol and/or public intoxication. This includes consumption that endangers oneself, operating a vehicle while intoxicated or under the influence of alcohol. This can be found via the Part 1, Section B, Misconduct, Number 3 of the Student Handbook. It's important to note as we review this topic over alcohol and the possession of illegal substances, we need to review the 911 Lifeline Law. This law has come into effect due to the loss of life of Mr. Carson Starkey. Carson Starkey was from Austin, Texas, and died of alcohol poisoning after a hazing ritual. Due to Carson's death, the Texas legislature went on to pass the 911 Lifeline Law, otherwise known as Texas Senate Bill 1331. The 911 Lifeline Law ensures that minors will not be charged with possession or the consumption of alcohol if they are calling 911 to seek help for someone who is currently suffering from alcohol poisoning. To be eligible to not be charged under this law, you must ensure that you're the first to call for help, you remain at the scene, and remain cooperative with emergency medical services and/or law enforcement. Texas Tech also has a policy on narcotics or drugs. The Texas Tech policy defines misconduct as possession, use, sharing, furnishing, or distribution of illegal drugs, intoxicants, controlled substances, and/or drug paraphernalia. This includes the distribution, use, or possession of prescription medications contrary to a valid prescription, being under the influence of illegal drugs, intoxicants, and/or controlled substances. This policy can be found via Part 1, Section B, Misconduct, item number 4 of the Student Handbook. What then are some potential penalties for the possession of or use of illegal substances? It's important to note here that not only are there potential legal penalties, but of course the institution, Texas Tech University, has additional penalties as well for you as a student. On the legal side, you can face a potential of large fines, probation, or jail time. You can have your driver's license possibly suspended for some time, mandatory addiction treatment, or jail time for trafficking up to a potential of 40 years. As an institution, students can face a reprimand or escalation to expulsion from the institution. And it's important to note too that any kind of reprimand or expulsion will remain on your student record even if you transfer from the institution. There are campus resources also here to highlight that can be utilized by students. Again, it's important to never drink and drive. Make sure to utilize Raider Ride, which is evening transportation hosted by the institution. It's available from 6 p.m. to 2:45, 7 days a week, and the phone number can be accessed on the back of your student ID. Our office, the Office of Student Involvement, also has social event planning guides that you can access from our website or by calling our office anytime. And if you're concerned for another Red Raider here on campus, make sure to reach out to the RISE office, otherwise known as the Risk Intervention and Safety Education Office, or you can make a report for a student of concern via the Office of the Dean of Students. You can also utilize the RAP program, or otherwise known as the Raider Assistance Program, via the Student Health Services, as well as our student counseling services, couple, marriage, family therapy, via the Office of the College of Human Sciences. If you are going to be planning an event in which alcohol could possibly be present, we always think it's important to follow the following 5 steps. First, set the goals of the event. Is alcohol really even necessary to make this event effective? It's something to always think about. Step 2, event development. Ensure that you're thinking through the entire day, your agenda, processes to help mitigate risk. Step 3, review your campus resources. Again, this is a great time to connect with offices here on campus who can help you to plan this event and ensure safety of all involved. Step 4, conduct a risk assessment. Again, review how could something potentially go wrong at this event and how can we mitigate that. Step 5, seek final approval. There are necessary approval processes, especially if you are planning to host an event on campus with alcohol. Additionally, any vendor off campus, such as a venue or a company, will probably have final approval needs for your organization, such as signing contracts. Step 6, of course, host your event. We hope it's a wonderful event that is safe and effective for all. And step 7, have an event evaluation. Did our risk management policy help us in case of an emergency? Are there things that we could do better next time as a student organization to ensure safety? The Office of Student Involvement, again, has a few suggestions for planning an event that might include alcohol. We do, of course, have our list here of all of our social event guidelines listed for you here to link into if you'd like. We also think it's important to look at the pros and cons of having a bring your own beer or BYO alcohol event versus having a third-party vendor such as a bartender who is, again, helping to mitigate that risk by having a wristband policy. Look again too at considering the members and the guest management of the event. Look at who's managing the door, who's allowing for ingress and egress, who's coming into the event. And again, who's maybe managing the bar? And last but not least, Review the vendors of the event. Your event where you're potentially hosting this again may have requirements at your venue, may have requirements for your third-party bartender. In fact, the venue may not allow you to have a bring your own alcohol event. They may enforce that you have a bartender. These are all things that need to be taken into consideration. We're now going to move into our second topic of our mandated risk management training, which is hazing. Texas Tech University is committed to providing a safe and supportive educational environment for all members of our Texas Tech community. Hazing, retaliation, and discrimination are strictly prohibited under our university policies, our state and federal laws as well. Today's training will help to provide you with the knowledge, resources, and reporting tools needed to prevent and address hazing. Hazing is defined at our institutional level, state level, and federal level. All of those definitions are listed here for you today, and I think it's important that we first define what our Texas Tech University policy of hazing is, which is any intentional, knowing, or reckless act occurring on or off campus by one person alone or acting with others. This is directed at a student that endangers their mental or physical health or safety of another student for the purpose of pledging, being initiated into, affiliating with, holding office in, or maintaining membership in any student organization. Hazing is also enforced at all three of these levels. Of course, there is now our Stop Campus Hazing Act, which is a federal law across the nation, our state laws, and of course, too, our institutional policies here at Texas Tech. Some shared key elements include that hazing is prohibited and punishable. Consent does not act as a valid defense for hazing. We're here to protect students from harm caused by a power imbalance, and we encourage reporting and that we hold individuals accountable as well as groups. Texas Tech University does also have an amnesty policy. It's important to note that Texas Tech may offer amnesty to students for conduct violations in the following cases, where a student might have violated a policy during an incident of hazing and a student who helps someone who's in need of medical assistance. Amnesty can potentially be granted when no conduct charges or sanctions occur, but there is such need for educational requirements such as training around hazing. It's important to note that misuse of amnesty could lead to conduct violations for a student in the future, and it does not apply to serious misconduct involving harm to others. It also does not prevent any kind of criminal charges outside of the university process, and a student may still be required to meet with staff to complete conditions such as counseling or assessments. If you have any questions about amnesty, it's important to contact the Office for Student Civil Rights and Sexual Misconduct, because final decisions are made by the Assistant Dean of Students, Senior Director for Student Conduct, as well as our Title IX Coordinating Office. We now want to take some time to discuss the topic of retaliation. Retaliation is strictly prohibited by the institution and will not be tolerated. This includes any action against someone who potentially made a report of a violation in good faith, assists with a report of a violation of hazing, or anyone who participates or refuses to participate in an investigation or resolution process under this policy. Retaliation includes, but is not limited to, threats, intimidation, coercion, discrimination, reprisals, or any adverse action affecting a person's employment or education. The university will always take steps to protect anyone who in good faith reports or participates or refuses to participate in any investigation from acts of retaliation. If you or anyone you know is experiencing retaliation, it's strongly encouraged to report such issues to the Office of Student of Civil Rights and Sexual Misconduct. Those found to have been retaliating will face disciplinary action up to and including termination of their employment, expulsion from the institution, or banning from campus and university events. As we continue to have conversations around hazing and reporting, it's important to also talk about the misuse or false information that can be created. False or malicious reports made knowingly and in bad faith can result in disciplinary action, up to dismissal or separation from the institution. A finding that a respondent is not responsible does not mean that a report was made falsely, and nor does a finding of responsibility automatically make the respondent's denials false. As we continue our discussion on hazing, it's also important to highlight what bystander intervention is. We're going to introduce to you now some intervention skills which equip you as an individual to safely recognize and intervene in harmful situations. Let's first define what is a bystander. An active bystander is someone who is witnessing a situation and steps up to either prevent a situation from escalating or disrupts a problematic situation. A passive bystander is someone who chooses to ignore the situation or do nothing. Why aren't more people active bystanders? More than likely, this is due to a socio-psychological phenomenon that is created due to a diffusion of responsibility, wherein individuals are less likely to act when others are present because they're assuming someone else will step in. That's why building in a community of active bystanders here at Texas Tech University is so critical. When communities foster a culture of shared responsibility, individuals will feel more supported and empowered to take action, encouraging open conversations, promoting intervention skills, and reinforcing that everyone has a role to play can help break down the barriers that are created by a diffusion of responsibility. If you see something, say something. If you see someone who is incapacitated by drugs or alcohol, they're unable to give consent, intervene and make sure they're not being taken advantage of, and never leave a friend who's possibly drunk alone. If you see others engaging in disrespectful or inappropriate actions, speak up, step up, get involved, or contact someone else who can help to assist. Sexual assault is most likely to be committed by an intimate partner, friend, or acquaintance. These types of assaults are the least likely to be reported, so if you see something unusual or safe, call the police immediately. We want to introduce for you today the new idea of TTU and our tips for intervening. We want you to T, tune in, T, take action, and U, unite. TTU. So our first step, tune in. We want you to pay attention to your surroundings and social dynamics, especially during team bonding activities and organizational events. Always trust your instincts. If something feels off, uncomfortable, unsafe, or secretive, it's probably because it is. Recognize the signs of hazing, power imbalances, or coercion, even when others may dismiss it as tradition or harmless fun. Some key behaviors to look out for are noticing again when something feels wrong. Listen to what your peers are telling you, either through verbal or body language, and acknowledge the warning signs, even in areas of gray when you maybe don't quite know. Step 2, take action. When you notice concerning behavior, don't just ignore it or hope someone else is going to step up and step in to help. Assume responsibility and take action. Determine a plan on the safest way to intervene for yourself and others. Avoid self-talk that excuses inaction. And you can always know that you can intervene directly or delegate potentially to someone in authority. Also, you can look at disrupting the situation by interjecting with doing something else. Key behaviors is naming something out loud if it's safe to do so. Interrupt the behavior by shifting attention and removing the person at risk, and get help here from campus resources, advisors, police, or staff. Step 3, unite. Use as many resources available to you at Texas Tech University. Utilize Real Response to make a report, the Office of Title IX. Utilize Rader's Report, the Office of Dean of Students, or the RISE office. Engage others. Hazardous behavior is harder to address alone. Enlist your friends, peers, or staff or faculty to help respond to a situation. Sustaining the culture of responsiveness means speaking up regularly, challenging harmful traditions, and modeling positive leadership. Key behaviors here include using your reporting tools and connecting others to support when needed. Proactively look for individuals you could call for help if necessary. And again, continue to work on creating a positive, supportive, and safe tradition within your organization. Let's now move into recognizing and being aware of hazing around our institution. It's important to utilize a before, during, and after framework to help participants identify hazing behaviors, understand the limitations of consent, and connect individuals to appropriate campus and community resources in the event that hazing has occurred. Hazing awareness can be viewed as a continuum. Understanding, preventing, and responding to hazing does not happen in a single moment. It's a continuous process, and Texas Tech University approaches hazing prevention and support through the three following phases: before, via prevention and education; during, with response and supportive measures; and after, with healing and long-term support opportunities. Before hazing occurs, we want to ensure that we're working on prevention and education. Our goal in this stage is to ensure that we're stopping hazing before it even starts through education, awareness, and creating a proactive shift in our culture here at Texas Tech University. It's important to know that we're trying to address safety and well-being in the moment, empower students with bystander skills, and promote and encourage safe traditions for our student organizations. We want you to normalize conversations about group well-being and safety, encourage early conversations about expectations in the student organization surrounding no tolerance for hazing, and continue to build your skills in bystander intervention. Some resources to do this include the RISE office, our blue light emergency phones, our Raider Ride shuttles for safe transportation after hours, and our student success specialists for both academic and personal support. As we move through the continuum, we are now in the during stage, where we want to focus now on responding and supporting. At this stage, our goal is to ensure that students know how to respond when hazing might be occurring, whether they're directly impacted, witnessing it, or unsure of what to do. Key concepts here include building awareness of our red flags and warning signs when we think hazing might be occurring, ensure that university policy is being upheld with compassion and care, and provide clear pathways to report and access help. This could look like a student calling for help if a situation is escalating, using indirect methods such as distracting and delegating if someone feels safe or unsafe so someone can step in to help, and documenting and reporting incidences anonymously or directly. Here at this stage, resources can look like utilizing Real Response and Raiders Report, the Texas Tech Crisis Helpline, which is on the back of every student's ID, our student organization response team, our Title IX office, the Office of Student Conduct, and our Texas Tech University Police Department. It's also now important to move through the continuum to now focus on if hazing has occurred, that we now look at how to heal and continue to provide long-term support for our students. Our goal is to help connect them to resources and help them through their well-being journey. It's important to note here that healing takes many forms. It can be academically, emotionally, and socially. Our students deserve a wraparound support rooted in the 8 dimensions of wellness, and our university remains a partner throughout this recovery process. In application, this may look like encouraging connection to counseling and medical care as needed, following up and continuing to connect with our students, and help students explore meaningful identity group making activities that help them to feel like they still belong to the campus community after the fact. Office resources here can look like the Office of Dean of Students, our Counseling Center, Wellness Center, the Mental Health Community, our RISE office, and TTU Beyond OK. Moving through our conversation surrounding hazing, it's also really important to now talk about the consequences and accountability the university will utilize. At the state level, organizations can expect the following if hazing occurs. An organization is legally responsible if it condones, encourages, or fails to stop an incident of hazing. Any member, pledge, officer, or alumni who commits or assists in the hazing on behalf of the organization is at risk of becoming at fault. The type of event could look like a general organization hazing offense that could seek a penalty of a misdemeanor and a fine between $5,000 and $10,000. And if the offense results in hazing that causes property damage, injury, or death, the fine could increase up to double the amount of the loss or damages. Texas Tech University policy strictly prohibits hazing under both our state law and our policy. The consequences for policy violations include, but are not limited to, one or more of the following. For an individual, that could look like a reprimand, probation, suspension, or expulsion from the institution. And on the organizational side, it could seek to see reprimands, probation with mandatory completion of educational workshops, suspension from organizational activities such as loss of all social events, as well as permanent loss of university recognition. It's also important to note that the Student Code of Conduct applies to all students and student organizations, regardless of whether the event occurs on or off campus. If it affects our university community or our objectives, you are held to our Student Code of Conduct. Let's now recognize some red flags and risks of hazing. Hazing can be seen of any of the following, and it's important to note that they also may overlap between the different types. Hazing could be considered physical, emotional or mental, financial, digital or social, or any combination of the above. Physical hazing. Physical hazing can include examples as the following, but are not limited to these examples as well. It could be physical assault or contact, such as beating, slapping, paddling, kicking, pushing, whipping or striking, electronic shock, placing harmful substances on the body, green lighting, such as giving permission or encouraging someone else to physically harm another. Forced physical activity or endurance, such as required exercise or extreme calisthenics, physically demanding scavenger hunts, sleep deprivation, exposure to extreme elements, confinement in small spaces, blindfolding, forced consumption, which could be considered any forced consumption of food, alcohol, drugs, or other substances, as well as binge drinking. Additionally, as a part of physical hazing, sexual coercion, such as forcing, coercing, or pressuring someone to perform any kind of sexual act. Examples of mental and emotional hazing are listed here for you, but they are again not limited to the following, such as manipulation and control, isolation and silence, humiliation and verbal abuse, fear and intimidation, and psychological pressure. Examples of financial hazing can include the following, but are again not limited to unnecessary or enforced spending, uncompensated roles, unfair financial burdens, and financial exploitation. Digital and social hazing. This can look like online exclusion and bullying, privacy violations and exploitation, and criminal digital behavior. Again, these are examples, but there could be many, many more, so it's always important to check in with resource offices. As we discuss the types of hazing, it's also important to understand how now hazing can get a little gray, and context is extremely important. For example, many people may say a scavenger hunt is a great team building exercise. Well, a scavenger hunt could be considered hazing if the tasks in the scavenger hunt include humiliating someone, putting them in danger, or illegal activities. If participating in the scavenger hunt is coerced or expected when under pressure, or if it's used to simply single out and embarrass only new members. Well, Lauren, we have a financial contribution to join our student organization, such as dues. That's not hazing, and you would be correct there. But financial contributions could be considered hazing if only new members are considered necessary to buy gifts for new or old existing members, or if they're forced to pay higher dues and differing values from one another, or if they incurred an unexpected costs that aren't disclosed to them. Again, emotional challenges could be considered hazing if it includes name calling, intimidation, or enforced silence and humiliation. If you are having a late night activity that seems safe, it's important to look at the possibility of it being hazing if participation interferes with a student's sleep, schoolwork, or well being. The Office of Student Involvement knows that it's important for our students to know that our faculty and staff here at Texas Tech University do have responsibilities when it comes to hazing. Texas Tech University aligns its hazing policy with our state laws and federal expectations through our student handbook, our Office of Student Conduct Procedures, as well as our employee responsibilities to be campus security authorities under the Clery Act. For example, if a faculty member observes any kind of hazing, they are to report it immediately to the Office of Dean of Students or Texas Tech University Police. If a student discloses hazing to a faculty or staff member, they're required to report it in writing as soon as possible, no later than 48 hours. And if someone is unaware of it being hazing, we still do ask that faculty and staff make a report so these offices can help to distinguish such issues. For Texas Tech University, our hazing disclosure statement is as follows. As required by Texas state law under Education Code 51.936, Texas Tech University Student Life provides a summary of all hazing laws here in the state, as well as a list of all student organizations that have been disciplined or found guilty of hazing either on or off campus within the past 3 years. If you would like additional information about hazing violations involving individual students that is not protected by federal privacy laws, the Office of the Dean of Students can be contacted for this information. Listed here for you today, if you would like to learn more at each level, being the federal, state, and our Texas Tech University policies, we have resources listed here for you to conduct more research as necessary on hazing. Now that we've talked quite a bit about hazing, let's now turn instead to look at how we can build group cohesion without utilizing hazing. What actions can you take as a student leader to help prevent hazing in your student organization and ensure that your peers feel safe and supported? It's important to always think about shared goals and traditions of your organization. Look at building leadership first through bonding activities. Always promote mentorship over hierarchies. Look to have collaborative input from all members and celebrate your progress. Recognize your individuals, their birthdays, and other achievements in and outside of the organization. We also want to push our student leaders and general student members to always challenge the harmful mindsets, such as, well, I went through it as a new member, they should too. Well, if it hurt you, why would you want to continue that cycle? Let's try and leave our student organizations better than we found them. Another challenging, harmful mindset is, well, it's tradition. Your traditions of your student organizations should bring pride to them, not pain. Let's start some new traditions instead that build trust and respect. Well, it's just harmless fun. If everyone's not fully comfortable or safe, I don't think it's harmless. I don't think it's fun. It's how we should be looking those organizational influences instead. Well, they can say no if they really didn't want to participate and do it. Power dynamics are real, and peer pressure makes it harder for people to say no. And so it's on us to create those safe spaces. Our next mandated topic for risk management training is sexual abuse and harassment. The Texas Tech policy on sexual misconduct sees the following: that sexual assault and harassment are both sexual misconduct, and sexual misconduct falls into the following categories: sexual harassment, sexual exploitation, public indecency, sexual assault, non-consensual sexual contact, non-consensual sexual intercourse, domestic violence, and dating violence. Consent is defined by Texas Tech University means the following: mutually understandable words or actions actively communicated by both knowingly and voluntary parties that clearly convey permission for a specific activity. Consent is not effective if it's the result of the following: use of physical force, the threat of physical force, intimidation, coercion, incapacitation in which a person cannot give consent in their current state, such as they are asleep, under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Any other factor that would eliminate an individual's ability to exercise their own free will to choose to engage in a sexual activity also makes consent ineffective. Some examples of nonverbal communication that show lack of consent are the following, but are again not limited to: resistance, such as pushing hands away or pulling away from a partner, their body going limp or freezing, crying or wincing. Some additional key points regarding consent. No requirement to resist is necessary to withdraw consent. The use of substances does not diminish or negate the initiator's responsibility to acquire consent. Consent has an expiration date and can be revoked at any time for any reason. Prior existing relationships between two consenting adults does not fully imply future consent, even in the event of marriages and long-term relationships. Preventing and addressing sexual misconduct. The following resources are provided by Texas Tech University via the Office of Risk Intervention and Safety Education, otherwise known as the RISE Office. This office hosts a sexual assault prevention and consent education training, Raters Respond, such as their bystander intervention, a training on healthy relationships known as One Love, sexual and reproductive health education, alcohol and other drug misuse prevention. Additional resource offices include the Office of Title IX, such as the Civil Rights and Sexual Misconduct Office. You can also always report a Title IX violation, go through our formal grievance process, utilize the Office of Dean of Students, or utilize a Student of Concern report as well. The following are additional forms of misconduct that Texas Tech University recognizes: stalking, substantial emotional distress, retaliation, adverse action taken against an individual, discriminatory harassment, complicitly or knowingly present during an issue, failure to address known violations, bullying or cyberbullying, and behavior that intimidates another individual. We're now going to move on to our next mandated risk management topic, which is fire and other safety issues. When hosting an event, fire safety is always a key issue that should be recognized and planned for. When hosting your event, always ensure that you're locating all exits and ensure that these exits are marked. Ensure that there are clear paths always left towards said exits. Do not exceed maximum capacity of your facility. Ensure that you have a fire extinguisher on hand and/or locate all fire extinguishers within the building. Designate a meeting location away from where, if a fire occurs, outside of the building. And conduct a roll call to verify that all individuals are present in the event of a fire. It's now important to also review the firearms, weapons, and explosives policy that Texas Tech University has. Our policy here at Texas Tech University defines misconduct as follows: the illegal or unauthorized possession of firearms, explosives, or other weapons, or dangerous chemicals, or use of any item in a manner that attempts to harm others. This can be found under Part 1, Section B, Misconduct, Number 6 of the Student Handbook. Texas Tech University does have a campus carry policy. The policies on Texas Tech campus, as well as our state laws, can be seen as follows. Texas Tech House Bill 910 is the open carry law, which legalized the open carry of handguns in Texas for individuals who have a concealed handgun license. There are exceptions for institutions of higher education, such as Texas Tech University. Texas Senate Bill 11 is the campus carry law. This allows licensed people to carry concealed handguns on academic campuses, such as Texas Tech University, but does allow for universities to have discretion in tailoring the campus carry policy to fit our own individual campus environment. Texas House Bill 1927 is the constitutional carry. This allows individuals over the age of 21 to open carry a handgun in a holster without a permit, both openly and concealed. This law modifies the previous open carry law from 2016, known as House Bill 910, previously discussed. So what then does this mean for you about carrying a handgun here at Texas Tech University? To openly carry a firearm here at Texas Tech University, the operating policy 10.22 must be followed at all times and includes the following requirements. The individual must have an LTC or license to carry, or a CHL, otherwise known as a concealed handgun license. Your weapon must remain concealed at all times, and you must follow Penal Code 30.06, which is the requirement of exclusionary zones that Texas Tech University enforces. It's also the responsibility of the permit holder of the weapon to know where said exclusionary zones are on campus, and the permit holders are not required to disclose their license to anyone other than law enforcement. It's also important to note that the university will not maintain a list of permit holders here at the institution. Additionally, the only kind of firearm that can be used under this policy are handguns, and this handgun is never allowed to be openly displayed. Exclusionary zones and requests. Exclusion by law means that the following locations on campus are considered to be exclusionary zones: the Rec Center, the Kent R. Hance Chapel, any premises in which professional counseling services are provided, research labs, as well as any university event where alcohol is being served, performance venues and locations during ticketed events, and other locations deemed off campus by the university president. Additionally, there is a campus carry committee here at Texas Tech University, where they regularly will investigate requests for exclusionary events or spaces, and it must be reviewed 90 days prior to the time of the event. It must be reasonably justified and cannot create special danger. If you have any questions about campus carry, we suggest you email campuscarry@ttu.edu. In the event of an active shooter situation, we want to help to identify Texas Tech University resources. It's important to note that Texas Tech University Police Department would handle any active shooter situation here on campus. We do online have active shooter presentations and trainings, as well as in-person trainings. It's also important to note that we do have our Sergeant Clint Jackstas's information here if you would like to connect with him. And also ensure that you are signed up for Tech Alert notifications. In the event of an active shooter, all information will come via Tech Alert. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security has the following suggestions and good practices for coping in the event of an active situation of a shooter. Be aware of your environment. Take note of all nearest exits. If you're in an office, stay there. If you're in a hallway, make sure to get to a room with a secure door. And at last resort, be prepared to defend yourself. We will now move on to the next mandated risk management topic, which is travel for student organizations. When planning to travel with your student organization, travel safety and travel planning should always include the following: who is traveling with you? Where are you going? What is the purpose of your travel? When and how are you going to get there? Assess all potential risks included with traveling, and then identify ways to minimize your risks with travel. Always make sure that you are planning anything and everything ahead of time, as well as have a crisis plan for your trip. It's also important to note that the Office of Student Involvement does not provide financial support for student organizations traveling. Student Government Association, and student organization travel. Student Government Association can support student organization travel as follows. There can be some financial support to organizations, and transportation information can also be provided by SGA. There is a student organization travel policy utilized by Student Government Association, and it does adhere to all of our TTU University travel operating policies. Additionally, rental vehicle and fleet vehicle information can be provided by Student Government Association. It's important to note that to receive any funding from Student Government Association, your organization must have the following already completed. You must be compliant with the Office of Student Involvement by being a registered student organization, and you also must complete this risk management training. Clery reporting and student organization travel. The Jane Ann Clery Campus Safety Act, otherwise known as the Clery Act, does still need to be enforced when student organizations are traveling. Clery crimes include any criminal offenses, violence against women, act offenses, hate crimes, arrests, and disciplinary referrals. A Clery travel form is required anytime your student organization is traveling. It should include the name and organization of the student group, the organization leaders, sponsors, and campus security advisors, the hotel and lodging information, event information, and if this university event is sponsored. This is all going to be provided to the Student Government Association office upon preparing for your travel. Included here for your review today are also the travel policies of the university. Here first is a link to the Student Life Travel Policy for Student Organizations, also known as the Student Affairs Student Travel Policy. This information is included in the training documents and available by email as well, if requested. A link here is also provided for information and a checklist policy for university-related travel via a motor vehicle. You are also more than welcome to email us at our office, studentorgs@ttu.edu, for this link as well. Our next mandated risk management topic is going to be behavior at parties and other events hosted by student organizations. Today, we all live in a world of technology and social media. So it's important to think of yourself and your behavior at parties and other events in the way of a fish in a fishbowl. Anything you do can be recorded, can have a photo taken of, and so it's always important to conduct yourself in the best behavior. As mentioned, your behavior goes just beyond what you do in person at events, but also on social media. We want to talk now about your social media risk management plans for your student organization. When it comes to social media best practices, we want to break it down as the following ways. Posts. Make sure that when you're posting as a student organization, what you're posting aligns with your mission and purpose of your organization. Refrain from any personal views or opinions, and make sure that you're thinking of how significantly something can affect your reputation when posting on social media. It's also important to think about who has access to your social media accounts as a student organization. Let's think of it this way. Do you have an organization officer who's in charge of all social media? Or does everyone have access to that Instagram or Facebook account? Let's maybe look at limiting that and ensuring that there's a clean officer transition as well. Also, it's important to think about how you're outlining that officer position. Make sure that officers who are in charge of social media are well written within your constitution and bylaws for all of their policies and procedures about how they need to be posting and conducting themselves on behalf of your organization on social media. It's also important to think about the safety of your members on social media. So when it comes to names, refrain from using the names of members and guests in your posts and protect individuals' privacy as much as possible. For the next mandated risk management topic, we're now going to talk about the adoption of a risk management policy for your own student organization. It's a requirement that all student organizations adopt a risk management policy. Your policy should include the identification of areas of risks, for your own organization's conduct at events, processes, and more. It should include university's policies and also include the policies of the state, local, and your national organization if applicable. Your risk management policy should be your guide for your organization through as many hypotheticals as possible. Also, you should always include your risk management policy in your constitution and bylaws or have it as a completely different document. But again, it should be documented somewhere. Make sure too that you always have all of your organization's documents saved in Tech Connect. That way, future officers have access to these documents as well. If you're looking for a starting point, the Office of Student Involvement is proud to have a great general use student organization risk management policy. This has been developed by our office and this risk management training and is designed to help you as kind of a starting point that you can take and tailor to your organization's specific needs. You're more than welcome to email our office to receive a copy, and it's also listed on our website as well. The next mandated risk management training topic is disability support. Here at Texas Tech University, we know it's important to support your peers who may have disabilities. Always try to be aware of organization members with disabilities. Ensure that if they're disclosing one to you, that you're helping to support them. Help to make your events accessible to all, as well as potential service animals, and understand what a service animal versus an emotional support animal is. And of course, too, be aware that the Office of Student Disability Services is here for you and all members of your student organization. Let's go over a few best practices for accessibility. Ensure that your space is accessible. Ensure that you keep floors at an event clean. Remove obstacles for individuals who may be having to utilize a wheelchair and for those with visual impairments. Make sure to space out seating and ensure room for individuals who might be utilizing a wheelchair or scooter. Use adjustable or wheelchair accessible desks and tables. Know the location of potential ADA buttons, ramps, and elevators. Ensure microphone availability and consider a wireless system as well too to help support those who might be audibly impaired. Minimize noise and environmental distractions. As well as when thinking of booking a venue, go ahead and try to visit in advance to check these accessibility options. Additional best practices for accessibility can look like the form of communication aids, such as providing interpreters who have the ability to speak ASL and utilize ASL. Use live captioning for your meetings and presentations that can be utilized via Zoom and PowerPoint. Support adaptive tech such as screen readers and text-to-speech items. Offer materials in multiple forms such as large print, digital files, and Braille if necessary. And ask individuals about accommodation needs in advance to help support them. We want to thank you for taking the time to be a part of this mandated risk management training. If you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to the Office of Student Involvement at studentorgs@ttu.edu.